Hello everybody, it's Esther here with simplehomeandhearth.com, and today I wanted to share with you one of my favorite recipes. We have a neighbor whose birthday was yesterday, and I promised that I would make these for her. And this was an old family recipe that my mom used to make way back when I was a little girl, and for years and years she would never share the recipe with us. But a few years ago, I decided to go ahead and share this recipe on my blog, and since I'm going to be making them today anyway for our neighbor's birthday, I decided to go ahead and make a YouTube video on how to make chocolate cream cheese cupcakes. They are the best, and I'm going to turn the camera around and show you my recipe. Hold on just a minute. Okay, as you can see, I have this notebook full of all different kinds of collected recipes. This was my mother's recipe for chocolate cream cheese cupcakes, and it makes about 2 dozen, but I have found that if I follow this recipe exactly, and you can tell it is well used, it's got all kinds of food stuffs on it. I probably need to print out a new one, but it makes 24 cupcakes, but I usually get about 18 to 20. I don't quite get 2 dozen. And these are the ingredients you're going to need. I use peanut oil. I don't like to use canola oil, but I use peanut oil. It takes for 2 cups of sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, hot water, 2 tablespoons of vinegar, vanilla, flour, salt, cocoa. And then you've got the filling that goes down inside the chocolate batter, and it's made up of 8 ounces of cream cheese, a pinch of salt, 1/3 cup of sugar, 1 egg, and 6 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate chips. And I'm going to go ahead and show you how they're put together. Now, before I get started, I always use dark chocolate chips. I love dark chocolate. My favorite is the Ghirardelli 63% cacao dark chocolate chips that I can buy in the store. However, I have looked everywhere and I cannot find the Ghirardelli chocolate, so I just got regular Toll House dark chocolate chips. So that's what I'm going to be using today. Yeah, this is in honor of my mom, who I just lost to cancer 2 months ago. She died this year, July 16th, 2020, and it's been an absolutely crazy year. It was 1 month and 1 day from the time I lost my mother that my husband lost his mother. And it's been quite the year. So this is the first time I've made these cupcakes in over a year, and I wanted to go ahead and share it with you. I have the recipe to this linked down below because a couple years ago I went ahead and wrote a blog post on how to make these cupcakes, and I've gone ahead and posted the link to that blog so you can get the recipe and print it out if you wanted to. So go ahead and check down below in my description, and the link for my blog post with this recipe is there for your using. So enjoy, and let's get started. First thing you want to do is line your cupcake tins with cupcake paper. I bought these tinfoil cupcake tins, or liners I should say, and between each foil liner was a paper liner. So I just used every other one. So I don't have to have them all foil. I don't really care about that, and I'm not going to waste the paper ones that were in between. I'm going to use them. And I prepared 1.5 dozen because I think that's about all this batch is going to make. So that's the first thing you want to do. Get your cupcake pans ready and lined with paper. Next, you are going to put a softened 8-ounce block of cream cheese, 1/3 cup of sugar, a pinch of salt, and 1 raw egg in a mixer, and you're going to mix that up. And you want the cream cheese really softened. Start out real slow at first. And then just speed it up. Make sure everything is really blended together well. There we go. And then I'm going to take a spatula and wipe all that down. And then I am going to fold in 6 ounces of dark chocolate chips into this inner mixture. I'm making that first before I make my chocolate batter. Okay, now that I have the cream cheese mixture in a small bowl, I have it on my kitchen scale. I'm going to turn it on because now the weight is at 0 ounces, and I'm going to add my cream cheese until the scale reads 6 ounces. And I'm just going to stir them in. There we go. That was about 6 ounces. That's a lot of cream cheese. A lot of chocolate chips. I'm just going to stir them in. And there we go. This is the concoction that gets dropped by the spoonful in the middle of the batter after you pour the chocolate batter into the paper cups. And that's why you don't have to worry about the raw egg that's in here, because it's going to get cooked along with the cake as it cooks in the oven. So this is the filling. And now let's get on to the batter. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is we want to mix 2/3 cup of oil and 2 cups of sugar. And we're going to blend the oil and the sugar together right now. Like wet grains of sand. I want to make sure to get all of this stuff off the sides. I have a really old KitchenAid that I bought used for very, very cheap from a neighbor that's across the creek and up the mountain. And it was his mother's and he never used it, so I bought it off of him with all the attachments for like, I can't remember, 50 bucks. Anyway, and it works beautifully and it's super heavy duty. I love it. I don't care what it looks like, but the newfangled ones that fit the newfangled KitchenAids have these blades that have the rubber spatula on them, you know, that scrape the sides as it spins. I'm not so lucky to have one of those, but I'm very happy with what I have. All right, sugar and oil is mixed. And now you're going to add the baking soda, 2 teaspoons, in 2 cups of hot water. And you can just use hot tap water if you'd like. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to add the 2 cups of hot water, and then I'm going to dissolve 2 teaspoons of baking soda into that hot water. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pour that in there. That's 2 cups of hot water with a little bit of baking soda, 2 teaspoons of baking soda dissolved in it, but there's still some baking soda residue. So the next ingredient is vinegar and vanilla, and I'm going to put those in here and kind of slosh it around so I make sure that I get all of the soda in with the batter. So you want 2 tablespoons of vinegar and 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Can you hear that? It's bubbling up in there. That's the chemical reaction of the vinegar hitting the baking soda. There we go. And the 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And I'll get all these liquids put together. That also helps wash off the paddle. So now everything's blended together. Now I'm going to start adding the dry ingredients. And first of all, it calls for 3 cups of flour. And it also calls for 1/4 cup of cocoa, rounded, not leveled. Don't be chintzy. Use a lot of cocoa. 1/4 cup rounded, piled on top. That's what that means. Okay, I'm using Hershey's natural unsweetened cocoa for this recipe. There we go. 1/4 cup rounded. And you always need a pinch of salt. The recipe calls for 1 teaspoon. I'm just gonna guess. This is kosher coarse ground sea salt that I'm using. All right, down in there, and start off very slowly because I don't want this thing to splatter everywhere. There we go. And it makes a very runny batter. And that's what you want because it's going to be super easy to pour. And when it's all baked and done, it's going to be moist and soft and delicious. Runny batter. That's what you want. Now with the cream cheese filling, I put that in the refrigerator when I was finished using it, just to kind of let it harden up again. As I was making this, it's not going to be super hard like it was when I first took the chunk of cream cheese out of the refrigerator, but it is going to be a little bit more solidified instead of so liquidy. That's what you want when you spoon it and dump it inside the center of each cupcake. So let's get on to the pouring and putting it together. Okay, I'm filling the cupcake tins, and I'm just using the 1/4 cup measuring cup that I already had out, and I'm filling it not quite full, just wiping the bottoms along the rim so it doesn't spill and drip. And you want to fill each cupcake tin only about 2/3 full. That's it. 2/3 to 3/4 max. Because once you put the cream cheese filling in, it's going to rise to the top, and you don't want it to rise too much. Okay, so now that I've got my 1.5 tins filled 2/3 to 3/4 of the way full with chocolate batter, it's now time to take the filling that we made with the cream cheese and the chocolate chips, the egg and the sugar, and a little pinch of salt. I'm just going to spoon it and drop a spoonful in the middle of each cupcake, just like that. So I do have a little bit left, and I also have a little bit of batter left. So I'm just going to set those aside. So it may make 2 dozen after all. We shall see. All right, I've already got my oven preheated to 350. There it is. Preheated to 350. And I'm going to put them in the oven at 350 for 20 to 25 minutes. And what I usually do is I stick a toothpick down in the center where the cream cheese and everything is, just to make sure everything's cooked through, comes out clean, and you're done. So let's get these in the oven, and then we'll come back and I'll show you what they look like when they're done. Okay, my timer went off, and I had to cook them for about 23.5 minutes, but I think they're done. So let's take them out of the oven, we'll see. Look at that. Nice. Yeah, they are done. Oopsie. Toothpick here. Ta-da! Came out clean. They're done. I don't like these oven mitts. They're too big and bulky. I have just today ordered myself a pair of high heat 900 and some odd degree gloves. So I'm going to try those. Those will be in next week. We'll see. But here they are, chocolate cream cheese cupcakes. And I'm going to leave them in the tins for a little bit until they cool off just a little bit. I don't want to remove them immediately from the tins. I want to be able to let them cool off a little bit, and as they cool, they'll get a little bit more solid. There we go. Yeah, they'll get a little bit more solid and be ready to come out of the tins themselves. And I'll put them on a cooling rack and just let them cool. And there you have it, chocolate cream cheese cupcakes. I hope you try this recipe. Click on the link below to subscribe and like. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free to comment below, and I will do my best to answer them in a timely manner. Thank you guys for joining me today.